Welcome to the old city of Tyre. This city, Jesus actually visited, we see in the New Testament, is also the city that had or invented the color purple, and they had a monopoly on Tyrian purple. We also see that Paul visited this city, and he spent some time here with some of the believers. We also see Jesus speak of this city in the Bible. And so we're going to check all of this out. We're going to view the site and see the city that Alexander the Great was able to conquer. So let's check this place out. And so the first site we're going to see here in the old city site of Tyre is going to be the octagonal building. It is right here in front of us with this colonnade that goes all the way around it. I have not been able to find much information on what this building was used for. I even had purchased a book while I was in Lebanon, in southern Lebanon, about the ancient city of Tyre, and it talks about every site here at the city site except for the octagon building. So I read in a few places that maybe some people believe that it was a marketplace. Other people mentioned maybe it was a Christian funeral building. But if you happen to know what this site was, feel free to add commentary in the comments to this video. And you'll notice at this site, just like the other sites that I've been to in Lebanon, that they are mostly empty. And when I went to the Al-Bas site, which is a few minutes away from the old city, there was only one tourist there. And when I was here at this portion of the ancient city of Tyre, there wasn't a single tourist. So not something many people can probably say they got to do, but I got to explore the whole ancient city site by myself. And just a little bit of information on the city of Tyre itself. So it's one of the oldest continually inhabited cities in the world. It is the legendary birthplace of Europa. It is the 5th largest city in Lebanon after Beirut, Tripoli, Sidon, and Baalbek. Approximately 200,000 people call Tyre home, and the city hosts 3 out of the 12 Palestinian refugee camps in Lebanon. The present city covers a large part of the original island, and it has expanded on the causeway built by Alexander the Great in 332 BC. Right in front of us we have the Mosaic Street, which we're going to come back to in just a few minutes. To the right of the Mosaic Street, we're going to have water reservoirs and a rectangular arena. And this arena is very unique. It is 45 meters by 35 meters, and it's built with local limestone. It had a capacity to fit up to 2,000 spectators, and it's believed that there was a rectangular pool inside where special festivals were celebrated. The arena was most likely attached to a temple or another public building and represents a central meeting place in the city. And although it was constructed in the 4th century AD, excavations show that an earlier and larger arena was built in the exact same spot during the Roman period around the 1st to 2nd century AD, and the evidence indicates the use of the location as a meeting and gathering place since the 7th to 8th century BC by the Phoenicians.
So, another interesting tidbit about this place is that this town is considered to be the birthplace of the color purple, and they were pretty much had a monopoly on it. So, anytime you think of like Jesus wearing the purple robe or kings wearing purple robes, more than likely it came from this town. They would harvest the mollusks, the molluxes, I guess is how you would say it, and they were like these like they had shells. They were like sea creatures, and they'd bring them in, and they would extract from them uh, the purple dye. And so here we are at the arena. And here we've got the water reservoirs.
And these reservoirs were very important to ancient Tyre because fresh water was scarce, especially with this being an island. And so until the aqueducts were built, they actually had to bring the fresh water over on boats. The mosaic road on our left was actually a basilica that was built at the end of the 2nd century AD during the days of Emperor Septimus Severus. And as you can guess, the reason it's called the Mosaic Road is due to all the mosaics that were on the ground. And this whole area was actually covered with mosaics during that time period. The building itself had a wooden ceiling structure, and it may have been cedar wood covered with terracotta tiles. The area over towards our left was known as the residential suburb, and like most Tyrian buildings, these homes had several floors to them, and it's even noted by ancient historians that the buildings of Tyre were higher than their counterparts in Rome. And so these multi-storied buildings had narrow streets running in between them, and I almost imagine something similar to old Damascus. You're not going to be able to see the next couple of sites very well just because this site has grown up. There's not much maintenance being done here. But straight ahead of us, we've got an ancient Phoenician temple. And then we're going to go a little bit further towards the back of this site, and we're going to see a mosque, or the area where the mosque is located, along with the area of the Crusader Cathedral. The Phoenician shrine that's in front of us that we won't be able to see dates back to the 7th to 8th century BC, and it's surrounded by a wall and includes a major altar podium built out of dry masonry of sandy stone. Most notably, there was a statue of a deity here that the temple was dedicated to, and in the courtyard of the shrine, there were a few other small altars that existed. And usually, these types of small shrines were part of a larger temple. We're now coming up on the submerged harbor, and this harbor dates back to the 3rd millennium BC. After a few devastating earthquakes in the 6th century AD, part of the city fell into the water here. And so if you were to go out into the water, you would be able to find submerged pieces of buildings, columns, walls, and other items from this ancient city. When you're thinking of ancient Tyre, you really have to break it up into two pieces. So you've got the island of Tyre, and then you also have mainland Tyre. And so multiple ancient armies had come in to invade Tyre, including the Assyrians and the Babylonians, but they were never able to capture the island of Tyre. The Phoenicians were masters of the sea, and they really had the perfect fortress on this island. And so this island is where we're currently standing. And this was the case up until 332 BC, when Alexander the Great came to Tyre and he sieged the island of Tyre for roughly 7 months. And he was not making any progress. He was losing soldiers. And then he came up with the idea of building a causeway out to the island. And so this causeway over time has expanded. And what he was able to do with the causeway is he was able to build these siege towers and catapults, and was able to break into the fortress and be the first invading army to actually capture the island of Tyre. So I've pulled up Google Maps here. We're going to zoom in on modern day Tyre, and I want to show you all how you can still see evidence of this causeway that Alexander the Great built here in 332 BC. It has expanded over time, but you can see here on our left in the middle of the screen, we've got the island of Tyre, the causeway in between, and then mainland Tyre on the right. So if we're looking at the island of Tyre right here, we've got the World Heritage Site, or the city site where we're at today in this video. And over on the right, we've got the hippodrome and the acropolis at the Albas site, which I have visited in another video. But just wanted to pull this up and show you that we can still see evidence of this causeway over 2,000 years later.
So this section that we're walking on is part of the historical section of Tyre that was the island of Tyre that Alexander the Great ended up building the causeway to. And over time, this causeway has grown or enlarged, and you can't really even tell barely that this was even an island at one point. An interesting story, he offered the Phoenicians, he told them, like, hey, I will come offer a sacrifice to your God. And they were like, whoa, 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 buddy, that ain't happening. Because in their culture, in their way of doing things, only the king offered sacrifices to the god. And Alexander the Great, if they let him do that, it would be them admitting that he was now their king. And they did not want that. But there's very few excavations that have been done here, because you've got all these people living behind us on the land that was part of the ancient Tyre that was conquered by Alexander the Great.
Right in front of us here, we have the Palaestra, and the Palaestra lies south of the Roman baths, where we see 9 granite columns. 4 of these columns still have the Corinthian capitals, and these halls were usually built close to the Roman baths, and they hosted sporting events, training, and competitions, especially in wrestling and boxing. And one interesting thing that was found here, they found a stone with an inscription written to the memory of a great but unknown Tyrian boxer. On the opposite side of the street of the Palaestra, which is right here in front of us, we have the Roman baths. And so, like all bath systems, it was divided into 3 sections for the hot, the warm, and the cold. A person could enter the caldarium to enjoy a steam bath, head out to the warm chamber to take a bath, and afterwards move to the cold chamber, where they could sit and enjoy a hot or a cold drink. The cold chambers were paved with marble, and they would have a water basin directly near the walkway. One of the last areas we're going to see here are the glass furnaces. And so these furnaces date back to the 6th and 7th centuries AD, and they provide a rare example of a glass factory from ancient times. High quality blocks of translucent glass were produced here and sold to glass workshops all over the region, where they were blown, molded, colored, and treated. Sand rich with silica taken from Tyre's beach and other materials would be fired in a furnace here over several days until it turned to liquid. Then this material would freeze, it would become a huge mass of raw glass, which would then be cut into small cubes and sold to glass workshops. And here in front of us, you see some of that glass that was made here in this glass furnace. This site still has a number of tanks with fireplaces underneath, and the remains of glass mixture can be found on their walls. Nearby, we can find some blocks of raw material and small scattered pieces of produced glass. And then next to the gas furnaces here, at one point, there was a metal workshop.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. It helps me continue making content just like this video.